So we have Adia Victoria with us here today on WFPK's First Cut, and so great to have you here, Adia. Where are we speaking to you from? Where are you right now?
I am on my boyfriend's back porch in Nashville.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Is it chilly there?
It is. It's about, let's say about 54, kind of soggy, gray. Where are you?
We're in Louisville, Kentucky,
Okay.
so weather's probably not too terribly different.
Yeah, you're just up the road a piece.
Yeah. So the first cut, we'll just be asking you a few questions to get to know you a little bit better and find out a little bit about your past and maybe what's going on with you right now as well. But first question is, what is the very first record you fell in love with?
The first record that I fell in love with was the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill in seventh grade.
How did you come across that album?
I think, geez, well, I mean, it was everywhere. And I think the first time I heard it was one of my older cousins. She had it. She had the CD. And I was listening to it with her, and I just absolutely fell in love with it.
Yeah. Did you grow up in a religious setting the first part of your life, or?
I did. So I grew up in South Carolina in a Seventh-day Adventist family in the church, and my school for the first 11 years of my life was attached to the church. So I was very institutionalized.
Yeah. Had you not been exposed to much secular music to that point, or?
No, not really. You know, my brothers were a little bit older than me, so they had a little bit more freedom in, you know, secular music. But as far as me, like I listened to a lot of classical music growing up, and a lot of VeggieTales soundtrack. Yeah.
What was the first song you learned on an instrument?
The first song I learned on an instrument, I learned how to play My Heart Will Go On the tuba, which is basically just bass notes. But I was in band in 6th grade, and I played the tuba. I was about this big, and the tuba was that big.
Right.
So that was the first song I actually learned to play on an instrument.
Wow. Could you play a tuba now, or have you?
I haven't played since I was a child, but I'm sure I could. It's funny, like a lot of the breath work that you do playing the tuba, it's very similar with singing. So I reckon it'd actually be good for singing to pick up a tuba again, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, they're enormous. They're enormous instruments.
Yeah.
You must have been just completely swallowed by that.
Yeah, my mom has a few pictures from my Christmas recital where I'm on stage, and you really can't even see me because of the tuba. You just see like my little twig legs sticking out.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
What was the first song you wrote?
The first song that I wrote was a song called Caravan. I wrote that when I was 21 on guitar, and it's a ballad about a man running from a lynch mob through the South.
Whoa, that's heavy. Yeah. What inspired you to write that song?
You know, I think that I was feeling at that time just a lot of upheaval. I was living in Atlanta, and I just felt like I had a lot of personal baggage like chasing me. And so I figured the way to put that into a song was like, who else has been chased by something that wants to consume them? It was like someone running from a lynch mob through the South. And I guess that was the way that I kind of placed myself in the song. Was I identify with that feeling of being hunted down.
What was the first song that you wrote that you were proud enough to record?
Actually, that song. I recorded it when I first moved to Nashville.
So is it on an album of yours?
It's not on an album. I lent it out for a project a few years ago. It was a radio station in New York. I'm forgetting the name. I'm sorry. But they were doing a project on all of the amendments. And my amendment was on a fair trial by a jury. And they asked if I had a song or I could write a song that had to do with that. And I was like, well, I have this song called Caravan about extrajudicial justice being carried out by a lynch mob, and maybe the importance of having a functioning, you know, law in justice. So you can use that song.
Perfect. Yeah. Wow. What was the first heartache song you connected with?
The first heartache song that I connected with was Get Gone by Fiona Apple.
Hmm. What
Yeah.
was it about that song that you connected with?
The thing that touched me about that song was just her calling bullshit like on someone and saying like, you know, you've been able to gaslight me. I have, you know, I've idealized you. I've placed you on a pedestal, but now I see you, I'm looking at you, and it's time for you to get out of my life. And I felt that about so many things. It wasn't even about like romantic relationships for me. It was just like other people in my life that I felt that had messed around with me and had a lot of power over me. And it was just me. It was her taking her power back from them. And it was something at 16 that I needed to hear.
Are you still a fan of Fiona Apple?
Massive fan. Yes.
Do you like her new album?
I love her new album. It got me through most of last year.
Oh, so yeah, for the pandemic and everything, you were listening to it then, or protests and everything
Yeah.
going on? Yeah.
Yeah. Just being alone, like being so alone the way that we've all been for this past year. Fiona's always been for me someone like a musical big sister, like someone who I feel like very known and seen by. And she's someone that I really let into my inner life, you know, musically. Like she's a companion for me and she speaks to me. So to be able to have her, you know, in my ear while being isolated has been just life-saving for me. She's been a lifeline for sure.
Do you know Fiona? Have you all met?
We've not met yet.
Yeah.
I've met people that play with her. I went on a tour with Iron and Wine in Calexico in 19. It was my last tour. And Sebastian Steinberg, who's her bassist, he played with those guys. So I got to meet him and like fangirl out and like, oh my God. And he said I reminded him of Fiona in a lot of ways. So I was like, that's amazing.
That's so cool. Who was the first artist that you were obsessed with or greatly admired?
Kurt Cobain.
All right. You were
Yeah.
a big Nirvana fan?
Yep. Nirvana found me when I was 14, God bless it. And I fell in love with him. I just completely fell in love with him. And my room in our house in South Carolina was in the basement. I wanted the basement room and there was no windows. And at night I would just like turn off the lights and like blare in utero. And yeah, Kurt, he really came through for little Dia back in the day.
Oh, you must have been pretty sad when he passed away.
Well, I was a kid. I was only 7 when he died. So I didn't really know what was going on. The only thing I remember really about Nirvana was being really scared of the video for Heart-Shaped Box as a kid with the Inside Out lady. I didn't like Nirvana as a kid. They scared me, but now, or at 14, they were speaking to me for sure.
What was the name of the first band that you played with?
Adia Victoria.
All right. You also played in a school band, you said, though, when you played tuba?
That was just our school's like marching band class. It was a Fair Forest middle school band.
Right. So your very own your first band was your very own, which I've talked to other artists that said the same thing, you know.
Yeah.
What was the first concert you went to?
The first concert I went to was The Strokes in Myrtle Beach in 2003.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Was that a good experience?
Oh yeah. I was 16 and Julian licked my cheek.
Oh.
It was great.
How did that happen?
He was crowd surfing and I got lifted up too by the crowd and he just like grabbed my face and licked it and was carried on away. And it was just like beautiful. And because he was like my personal Jesus at that time. And my God. It still gives me, the vapors.
What record are you listening to now that you really love?
I've been listening to a lot of compilation records of like Appalachian music, a lot of different playlists. I will say Gillian Welsh, Hell Amongst the Yearlings is something that I keep going back to and I've recently been listening to on a lot of my walks. there's just something about her voice and her stories that, you know, they really speak to me.
Yeah. That's a long ways away from, say, Nirvana, you know, and the Strokes. That's pretty, you know, hard rock and stuff. And so now you're into what, more acoustic folk kind of stuff, or?
Yeah, but you know, it's funny, like when I listen to music, I'm mostly listening to the lyrics. I'm listening to the stories. And I feel like the thing that all of them have in common is that they're such masterful storytellers that, you know, the narrative is just, it just speaks through the differences of the genres. So yeah, I cover a large swath in my music.
Right. What's the most recent song you've learned to play?
I actually learned to play Eric Satie's Je ne peux dire. I think it's the fourth one. So one that goes do 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 do. I learned it on guitar, so I've been trying to find new ways to play my guitar. And so classical guitar has been really interesting and like expanding for my technique. So I learned how to play that song, and I love Eric Satie, so it's been cool to play along with him.
I'm not familiar with Eric Satie. Is he French?
Yes, he was a French composer. He was one of the modernists back in like the early 20th century. He was a contemporary of Debussy, I believe, Maurice Ravel, and they were just doing like really weird atonal, minimalist compositions that are very haunting and eerie. I highly recommend, you know, checking him out. It's just beautiful. It's Eric with a K.
Okay, I will. You speak French, don't you? Are you fluent in French?
Oui.
Okay, because I know you did an album in French.
Yeah, I did a little EP called How It Feels in en français. And I'm actually working on a French song for the new record as well. So.
Cool. When is your new record coming out?
Hopefully sometime this year. I actually started writing it last January in Paris. I have a group of folks out there that I record with and write with. And the plan was to go back in spring of 2020 again with my creative partner, Mason Hickman, and record more, but obviously that didn't happen. So we've just been working remotely with them, and hopefully I can start putting out music maybe late spring, summer. The music biz is weird right now. It's very strange.
Extremely, yeah. I know, and I'm concerned. I'm concerned for musicians and how you're making your living. How are you, you know, dealing with this? Because it's just so awful.
You know, it has been terrible, like financially for sure, and psychologically, but I think that, and I can only speak for myself, but I think that I needed this time home with myself. You know, I was looking at our calendar from 2019 and we were on tour like 252 days out of the year. And I'd pretty much been on tour nonstop for 5 years. So to have this time at home with myself to recenter, regroup, and reconnect has been sacred for me. And I've been just trying to take it one day at a time. You know, I try not to think about like touring and what it's going to look like or how possible it's going to be. Like my only concern right now is keeping myself and my mother, who I live with, alive.
Mm. What is a heartache song you would go to now?
Man, Ain't No Sunshine When She's Gone by Bill Withers.
What is it about that song?
I think it's the rawness of and the honesty of being able to take loss and grief and something that feels so private and buried and isolating, and his ability to connect it with the most universal thing, the sun rising, the sun setting. Everybody knows what day and night is, and to be able to distill that feeling of just darkness to say like there's no sunshine when she's gone. It's just like, that's just brilliant to me. And the thing I love too about that song is like when he was recording it, you know, the part where he goes, I know, I know, I know, I know, I know, I know. He was in the studio and he didn't have any lyrics for that part of the song. And he was just like saying that to fill time. And he was going to go back and like write lyrics for it. And his producer was like, no, just leave that there. So it, you know, I listened to it for the content of it, but also the production, the writer side of it, of just like him riffing with himself and just going with that, because it was so true. Just like him telling himself, I know. And I think everybody who's experienced loss knows that feeling of telling yourself, like, I know it's going to get better. I know that I won't grieve forever, but right now it just feels like eternal night.
I didn't know that about that song. I didn't know that the story behind that. That's really interesting. And I love that part of the song, you know?
Yeah.
So what's a song that that you would go to that really lifts you up right now, gives you hope?
Fiona Apple's Heavy Balloon off the latest record.
Well, why that song?
She's talking about the way that depression can just feel like an anchor around your neck, like a lead balloon. You know, you just feel at the bottom of everything. And I have felt that. I felt that a lot this past year, just like bottomed out and weighed down. But in the chorus, she says, but you know what? I spread like strawberries. I climb like peas and beans. And I was just like, yes, even though I can get this low, I can get as high as the plants that continue to crawl towards the sun. And it's just like, it's like she's talking to herself, like, come on, girl, get up. Like, you can get back up. Like, we're not staying down with the devil, you know, as low as I can go, I can shoot for the sky. And I feel like she's been talking to me too, like, Adia, get up, rise, you know, you don't have to hold on to all this heaviness.
Yeah. Well, that leaves us on a very hopeful note. And Adia, thank you so much. And we wish you all the best. And I'm glad that this time you're using this time as a fertile time, it sounds like. And I hope everything goes okay for you. And we can't wait till you come back to Louisville someday.
I can't wait to come back, Lord. Thank you for spending some time with me today.
Our pleasure. Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.